Most men do something very predictable when they start liking a woman. They try harder. They text more. They compliment more. They show up more. They give more attention, more energy, more effort. They put her at the center of everything and quietly hope she notices. And she does notice, but not the way you think. She doesn't feel flattered. She doesn't feel chosen. She feels something shift inside her chest. A slow, quiet closing. A pulling back she can't even explain. The more you lean in, the more she leans away. Not because she's cruel, not because she doesn't see your effort, but because something in her nervous system starts to register you differently. You stop feeling like a man she's drawn to. You start feeling like a man she has to manage. And that's where attraction quietly dies. But there is one shift, one internal shift that changes everything. And after this shift, she won't want anyone but you. Stay with me. This is going to make a lot of things painfully clear. Let me tell you something most people won't say out loud. Attraction is not a reward for effort. It never has been. You were taught that if you show a woman how much you care, she'll care back equally. That if you prove your loyalty early, she'll feel safe. That if you're the nicest, the most available, the most consistent, she'll choose you. But that's not how emotional attachment works, not even close. A woman doesn't choose the man who does the most. She chooses the man who feels the most steady. There's a difference, a big one. Doing the most comes from anxiety. It comes from fear, from a place inside you that whispers, if I stop trying, she'll leave. And that energy doesn't feel like love to her. It feels like pressure. When you overinvest early, when you flood her with attention before she's earned it, her brain registers something subtle. There's no challenge here. There's no tension. There's no space for her to wonder about you, to lean in, to feel that slow pull that makes a woman start to attach. You filled every gap before she even had a chance to feel one, and that's the part no one tells you. Women don't attach in the presence of constant reassurance. They attach in the presence of 4 very specific things: safety, curiosity, a slight sense of uncertainty, and emotional depth. Safety doesn't mean you tell her she's safe. It means your energy feels regulated, your voice is calm, your behavior is consistent without being desperate. She feels safe not because you promised it, but because your nervous system communicates it without words. Curiosity means she doesn't have you completely figured out. You're not pouring out your entire emotional history on the second date. You're not revealing every thought, every feeling, every fear within the first week. There are layers to you. And she feels that. She senses there's more beneath the surface. That makes her want to stay. A slight sense of uncertainty doesn't mean you play games. It means she can't fully predict your next move. You're not cold. You're not distant. But you're not overly available either. You have a life. You have depth. You have a rhythm that doesn't revolve around her. And that slight unpredictability keeps her emotionally engaged in a way that constant attention never could. Emotional depth means when you do share something, it lands. It's real. It's not rehearsed. It's not said to impress her. You speak with weight. You say less, but what you say stays with her. She replays your words not because they were poetic, but because they were honest. When all 4 of these things are present, something happens inside her that she doesn't control. Her thoughts start to circle back to you, not because you asked for her attention, but because you created the emotional environment where attachment naturally builds. Most men never create that environment. They skip straight to proving themselves. They skip straight to performing. And the performance is what kills it. She watches a man try too hard, and her body quietly decides before her mind catches up. She might not even be able to explain why she lost interest. She might say she's busy. She might say she's not ready. But the truth is simpler than that. Her nervous system made a decision in the first few interactions, And that decision was based not on what you said, but on how your energy felt in the room. This is what most men miss entirely. The shift that changes everything doesn't happen in your words. It doesn't happen in your strategy. It happens in your energy. And once that energy changes, everything she feels about you changes with it. Let me show you exactly what that shift looks like.
The first shift is the most important one. Stop performing. Most men walk into a conversation with a woman already auditioning. They're trying to be funny, trying to be impressive, trying to say the right thing at the right moment. And every word they speak carries this invisible weight, this need to be approved of, this hunger to be seen as enough. She feels that every single time. When a man is performing, his energy is not grounded. It's reaching, it's leaning forward, it's asking without asking. And a woman's nervous system picks up on that within seconds, not minutes, seconds. Before you finish your first sentence, she already feels whether you're centered or whether you're trying to win her over. And here's the truth that might sting a little. The moment she feels you trying, something inside her relaxes in the wrong direction, not into comfort, into disinterest. Because a man who performs doesn't feel safe. He feels unstable. He feels like someone whose mood depends on her reaction. And no woman wants to carry that weight. So what does it look like to stop performing? It looks like speaking slower. Not because you're trying to seem mysterious, but because you're not rushing to fill silence. It looks like responding instead of reacting. When she says something, you don't scramble to match her energy. You stay in yours. You let a pause exist without panicking. You let a moment breathe without stuffing it with words. Calm presence is the most attractive thing a man can carry into a room. Not confidence that's loud, not charm that's rehearsed, just stillness, groundedness, the quiet energy of a man who is not afraid of silence because he's not afraid of himself. That's shift number one, and it changes how she categorizes you immediately. The second shift is about emotional availability, and this one is where most good men lose the game entirely. You like her, so you text back immediately, every time. You share how you feel early. You tell her she's different. You open your chest wide and hand her everything before she even asked for it. And you think this is honesty. You think this is vulnerability. But what it actually does is remove the space she needs to invest. Attachment doesn't grow when everything is handed to someone. Attachment grows when someone reaches for it. When she sends a message and doesn't hear back for a little while, something happens in her brain. She wonders. She replays. She checks her phone again. That's not manipulation. That's natural emotional rhythm. You're not ignoring her. You're living your life, and that difference matters more than you realize. When you overshare your emotions early, you rob her of the slow discovery. You take away the mystery that would have kept her leaning in. She doesn't need to hear that you're falling for her on week 2. She needs to feel it through your actions, your consistency, your calm interest that doesn't tip into obsession. Control your emotional availability, not by being cold, but by being balanced. Let her invest too. Let her wonder a little. Let her feel the pull that only comes when there's space between two people. The third shift is about leadership. And I don't mean control, I mean direction. Most men ask a woman what she wants to do, where she wants to eat, when she wants to meet. They hand her every decision and call it being respectful. But what she feels is something different. She feels the absence of direction. She feels a man who is afraid to lead because he's afraid to get it wrong. Tell me in the comments, have you ever noticed how people seem more drawn to you when you stop asking for permission and just start leading with quiet certainty? Make plans. Have a suggestion ready. Say, I'll pick you up at 7, instead of, what time works for you maybe? That small shift communicates something deep. It tells her you're not afraid of taking up space. It tells her you trust yourself. And when a man trusts himself, a woman's body starts to trust him too. Have standards. Say no sometimes. Not to be difficult, but because you actually have a life that matters to you. Have a schedule that doesn't bend the moment she's available. Have interests that exist outside of her. Have boundaries that you hold without explaining them over and over. Women don't crave approval from a man. They crave direction. They crave the feeling that someone is steady enough to hold space without asking to be validated for it. The fourth shift is the one that most men resist the hardest. Remove the fear of losing her. When you're afraid to lose someone, you behave small. You shrink yourself. You say yes when you mean no. You tolerate things that bother you. You laugh at things that aren't funny. You avoid difficult conversations because you don't want to create conflict. And all of that shrinking doesn't make her love you more. It makes her respect you less, but when you reach a place inside yourself where you're genuinely okay with walking away, your energy transforms. You stop gripping, you stop controlling, you stop performing, and suddenly she feels something she hasn't felt with anyone else. She feels the presence of a man who chose her freely, not out of fear, not out of scarcity, but out of calm, grounded desire. And that kind of choosing is the most powerful thing a woman can experience, because it means your love is not desperate, it's deliberate, and that's the shift she feels immediately. Let me paint a picture for you, because once the shift happens, the change in her is something you can almost watch in real time. She starts thinking about you at night, not because you texted her something sweet before bed, but because you didn't. Because your presence earlier that day was so grounded, so unhurried, so different from every other man who has tried to flood her with attention, that her brain can't stop circling back to you. She rereads your messages, not because they were filled with compliments, but because they were short, direct, warm, but not desperate. She reads between the lines and finds something there that she can't quite name, something steady, something real, something that doesn't try to convince her but still pulls her closer. She starts wondering what you're doing, not because you disappeared, but because you have a life that doesn't orbit around her. You mentioned something about your week. You had plans. You weren't sitting by the phone waiting. And that small detail does something powerful to her mind. It makes her want to be part of your world instead of feeling like she already owns it. She starts initiating. She texts first. She suggests plans. She finds excuses to be around you, not because you asked her to, but because the emotional space you created made her want to step into it. She's investing now, and that investment is what deepens attachment. She doesn't want competition. She doesn't want to share your attention, not because you made her jealous, but because what she feels with you is so rare that the thought of losing it creates a quiet urgency inside her she hasn't felt before. This is what happens when you stop chasing and start being centered. You didn't manipulate her. You didn't use tricks. You didn't withdraw affection to make her desperate. You simply became a man whose energy felt different, calm, present, unshakable, and her entire emotional system responded to that energy the way it was designed to. Now let me tell you the real reason this works, because it's deeper than strategy. It's deeper than dating advice. It's about what women are actually wired to attach to. Women don't fall in love with effort. They notice effort. They might appreciate effort, but effort alone doesn't create the deep, almost irrational attachment that makes a woman feel like she can't imagine her life without you. What creates that feeling is emotional stability. The sense that you are the same man on a good day and on a hard day, that your mood doesn't swing based on whether she responded fast enough, that your identity doesn't crumble when she's distant. She watches how you handle tension. She watches how you handle disappointment. And if you remain steady through both, something clicks inside her that no amount of flowers or compliments could ever trigger. What creates that feeling is controlled intensity. You're not cold. You're not detached. You have fire. You have desire. But you hold it. You don't spill it everywhere. You let her feel it in small doses. A look that lasts 1 second too long. A sentence that carries weight without being dramatic. You show your depth without drowning her in it. And that restraint is more attractive than any grand gesture you could ever plan. What creates that feeling is mystery, not games, not silence for the sake of silence, but the sense that she hasn't fully uncovered you yet, that there are rooms inside you she hasn't entered, that every conversation reveals something new, but never everything. She feels drawn to keep exploring, and that pull is what makes her choose you again and again. What creates that feeling is self-respect. When she sees that you won't abandon yourself to keep her, when she feels that your standards are real, when she watches you walk away from something that doesn't serve you without anger, without drama, just quiet resolution, that's when her body registers something her mind can't argue with. This man is safe, not because he's soft, but because he's solid. When a woman feels all of this at once, a sentence forms in her subconscious that changes everything. This man doesn't need me, but he chooses me. That sentence is the foundation of real attachment. It's the difference between a man she dates and a man she bonds to, between a man she likes and a man she can't let go of. Because when a woman feels chosen by a man who doesn't need her, the choosing means everything. It means his love is not coming from a void, it's coming from fullness. And that kind of love feels like the safest place in the world. That's when attachment locks in. Not because you performed well, not because you said the right things, but because your energy made her feel something she didn't know she was looking for. And once that locks in, she doesn't compare you to anyone else. There's no competition, because what you gave her isn't something another man can replicate by trying harder. It came from who you are, and that's something no one else can fake.
Now I need to say something important. Because everything I just described can be destroyed in an instant if you misunderstand what this shift actually means. This shift is not a strategy. It's not a game plan you run on a woman to make her obsessed. The moment you treat it like a tactic, it stops working. Because women don't just hear your words, they feel your intention. And if your intention is to manipulate her emotions, she will sense it. Maybe not on the first day, maybe not on the first week, but she will feel the misalignment between what you're doing and why you're doing it. And when she does, every ounce of trust she built will collapse in a single moment. So let me be very clear about what this shift is not. It is not faking detachment. Some men here don't be too available, and they disappear for 3 days just to create anxiety. That's not groundedness. That's a performance of groundedness. And it feels completely different. A woman can tell when a man is genuinely busy living his life versus when he's sitting at home, staring at his phone, pretending not to care. The energy is different. The silence feels different. Real unavailability has warmth underneath it. Fake unavailability has calculation underneath it. And she feels the difference in her chest before she can explain it with her mind. It is not playing mind games. Don't mention other women to trigger jealousy. Don't give mixed signals on purpose. Don't say one thing and do another to keep her confused. That doesn't create attraction. It creates trauma responses. And a woman who stays because she's anxious is not a woman who chose you. She's a woman who's surviving you. That's not love. That's emotional imprisonment. And you don't want that. Not if you're the kind of man this message is really for. It is not ignoring her intentionally. Responding slowly because you're choosing to is manipulation. Responding slowly because you're living a full life is authenticity. One creates resentment. The other creates respect. And only one of them leads to the kind of attachment that actually lasts. It is not acting cold. Emotional control doesn't mean emotional absence. You can be warm, you can be present, you can show affection. The difference is that your warmth doesn't come from desperation. It comes from choice. You're not giving love because you're afraid she'll leave. You're giving love because you want to. And she feels the freedom in that. She feels the safety in a man who is kind without being clingy, affectionate without being anxious, present without being suffocating. This shift is entirely internal. It's not about changing what you do. It's about changing where it comes from. When your actions come from fear, they feel heavy. When your actions come from peace, they feel magnetic. Same behavior, completely different energy. And energy is the language her nervous system speaks fluently. So how do you actually make this shift real? You stop building your identity around whether she stays or goes. You stop measuring your worth by her level of interest. You start filling your own life with meaning that has nothing to do with her. You develop discipline. You pursue something that matters to you. You become a man who is whole before she even enters the room. Because that's what this is really about. It's not about making her want you. It's about becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to make anyone want him. And the paradox is beautiful. The moment you stop trying to be chosen, you become the man she chooses. The moment you stop performing, she starts paying attention. The moment you stop gripping, she starts holding on. That's the shift. It doesn't happen in a conversation. It doesn't happen on a date. It happens inside you. In the quiet moments when you decide that your peace matters more than her approval. That your standards matter more than her validation. That your life is valuable whether she's in it or not. And when that shift is real, she feels it without you saying a single word. Her body relaxes around you. Her walls come down. Her laughter gets softer. Her eyes stay on you a little longer. Not because you earned it with effort, but because your energy told her everything she needed to know. Have you ever noticed how people chase you more when you stop chasing them? If you felt that, type shift in the comments. I want to know how many of you already understand this. After this shift, she won't want anyone else. Not because you tricked her, not because you played a role, but because you became the real version of yourself. And that version is the one she's been quietly searching for all along. When things finally start making sense, when patterns become clear, come back to Lies Unmasked and tell me thank you. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.